Hi, I'm David. I'm here at Eating Disorder Solutions, and this is my recovery story. To be honest, I didn't really know that what I was struggling with was eating disorder. To be honest, never really heard of an eating disorder. I was actually seeking treatment for something else and started speaking to their intake specialist about what I was going through and everything, and they were like, "Oh, this sounds like you should get in contact with an eating disorder place." And so that's when I kind of started doing research about like what that was and figuring out what I was kind of going through. And then even then, finding this place was kind of a journey for me because I'm also type 1 diabetic, and a lot of the places that I called weren't equipped to deal with that on top of the eating disorder. And so I was just really blessed that when I called here, they were like, "Yeah, we can handle that." A little bit of a ways from home, but it's one of the best decisions I think that I made was coming here. Some of the things that I was doing, like symptomatically, I had a lot of binging episodes, back to back. It would be like binging and then not eating for long periods of time. It's probably been like 4 or 5 years that I've been going through. I don't know if it's been 5 years necessarily of like eating disorder, but definitely 5 years of disordered eating for sure. But I would definitely say eating disorder has been at least 2 or 3 years. I am a father. I have a beautiful 5-year-old little girl, but her mom and I went through kind of a really rough time. Yeah, I became a dad very young, and I wasn't prepared for it, as much as that sucks to say. Also, a lot of my upbringing was kind of part of it too. I, grew up on a farm, homeschooled, very southern, old school upbringing. It was like, men don't have time for emotions. You got life going on, nobody cares, rub some dirt in it, get back to work, kind of. So when I started being stressed out as a father, I basically did what I knew how to do, and that was hide it from everybody and try to deal with everything on my own, basically feeling isolated, and it just kind of spiraled. I have definitely had a journey with substance abuse recovery, and actually while I was here, they were able to, actually I have it on me, but I got my 1-year sobriety chip in November, and that was a huge accomplishment for me because my relationship with alcohol was very toxic to me. I mean, I just, I understand. I get it. When I talk to other people that are going through it, it's relatable. For those of us that do, that's part of the eating disorder, because the eating disorder gets us to think, well, you need all these other things to replace the things that you're lacking. You don't have social interaction. Okay, well, you're going to go to drinking. You don't have a good relationship with your family. You're going to use other substances, or whatever. Because we're already in that addiction mindset from the eating disorder, it's very natural for it to lead into other things. And I think that's just human nature in general. It's easier to deal with the problems if you have something else that's distracting you from the problems. Is it the healthiest? No, but like you said, people are people, and we only know what we know until we know better. And that's part of the journey, is the awareness and the discovery of who you are and where you're at and who you want to be. Statistically, the number of people that I've seen come through here in the 6 months I've been here that do struggle with other substances outside of their eating disorder is, statistically, it's a large number. I think being able to share the experience, and like if I can help other people not feel so much shame about that, like it's normal. We all struggle with different things, and with our eating disorder, most of us struggle with additional things on top of that. Like for me, a big part of what started the eating disorder was I was abusing my diabetes to control my weight, because I struggled with body image and wanted to look a certain way, and that had serious consequences. I feel like if I could tell people struggling with eating disorders anything, it's that don't be ashamed because you made decisions that you didn't know better. We all struggle. That's, that here at EDS, they give us, with the 4 levels, we get a bracelet with each level that support their 4 core beliefs. And the first one that they give you is kindness, and it says kindness begins with the understanding that we all struggle. And I believe that it's good that is the first one that they give us, because it's so important to understand everybody struggles. It may look different for different people, but partially it goes back to what I was saying earlier about my upbringing. Men in our society have kind of these expectations of, well, real men don't cry, and real men, we don't have time to have issues because we've got jobs to do and we've got people to provide for, so you don't have time to have feelings. And that kind of expectation on men has created a situation in which, when we do have problems like substance abuse or an eating disorder or whatever other addiction, we don't have time to get treatment for it. We don't have that same kind of grace. And I do think that there is starting to be a little bit more awareness about it. I've been here a long time. I've been here 6 months. In the 6 months that I have been here, I've seen dozens and dozens of females come through here. Even the men that do get diagnosed with an eating disorder, which is already statistically low because we don't get diagnosed for it. Eating disorders, they're nasty business. They are unforgiving, and they can and will kill you. And I think social media does play a lot into it, again, because for guys, we see all these buff gym guys on social media. They're at the gym posting about what their diet is, and it's the average man can't sustain those types of expectations. And it's frustrating because on the one hand, you want to look a certain way because you want that certain type of attention. You want that validation from other people or, partners or whatever. So we feel like if we don't meet those expectations, that we won't be satisfactory. On the flip side, for women as well, obviously you've got all these supermodels on social media that are also doing these crazy diets and whatever, and they have those same kind of expectations, which I also believe are completely wrong, and those should not be society's expectations. But I think the difference between the women and the men in that scenario is that when the women want help, it's okay to get help, and with the men, it's not. It's frowned upon. And that's just kind of where we're at right now in society. I do think that there's rising some more awareness about it. There have been studies done, and research is starting to come up, but without talking about it, without sharing it, that awareness isn't going to spread. I definitely have worked on emotional regulation, like identifying my emotions since being here. There's, to a certain extent, there's kind of this negative opinion towards uncomfortable emotions. They're like, anger is a bad emotion, sadness is a bad emotion, you shouldn't feel those things. Anger and sadness have a purpose. There is a purpose for those emotions, and instead of labeling them as a bad feeling, I try to reframe that. I label it as uncomfortable. We can be uncomfortable and still do hard things. If there's no fear of loss, if there's no fear of sadness, then how do we know what happiness feels like? How do we know what it means to win if we don't know how to lose? I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I obviously still struggle with those thoughts. I still want to be the tough guy that's got all the answers and can fix everything. But I do think that I'm at a place now where I'm a bit more self-aware, and I'm not so much seeking anybody else's validation. Something that I had to learn for myself to overcome that was, it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks about you, whether or not anybody else loves you, because if you love yourself, then you're always with somebody who loves you. And that's a really hard concept to wrap your head around, I think, for anybody. it's just been an eye-opening journey for me. Getting to talk to Celia over the last 6 months, she's been a great help with a lot of that type of thing. Self-image and self-esteem were big things that we worked on with me being here, and I'm pretty comfortable with my beliefs and who I am now as a person. Self-love is hard. We hear people talk about self-love and self-compassion and all these things, and everybody makes it sound so easy. They're like, well, just, do these things for yourself. Take a bubble bath, take a whatever, buy yourself scented candles. And it's like, yeah, that's great. That's nice, but that's just a Band-Aid on a bullet wound. Because if you don't love yourself, the candle's only going to make you happy for a few minutes. You have to learn how to be your authentic self and be happy being your authentic self before any kind of recovery from any addiction happens. If you're not feeling like your authentic self, you're not going to get sober. You're not going to quit smoking, because we're still having these anxieties and depression and all these other things because we're wearing a mask 24/7. Nobody wants to do that. And I just wish that more people would be comfortable being themselves. That's something that I specifically, going into this interview, wanted to speak on, is that everybody expects once you're on your recovery journey that's it, you're recovered. And the reality of life is that nothing is that simple. You're gonna have bad days. You're gonna have setbacks. You're gonna make mistakes. Being human means by nature that we are not perfect. And sometimes we do have to go back into treatment again. And I would say, for anybody watching this that is maybe struggling, don't be afraid to ask for help more than once. Don't be afraid to have to face the same demon more than once. That's just the reality of the world that we live in. Things are going to come up over and over and over again. I had to get sober more than once. I had to quit smoking more than once. I would be naive if I think that I'm going to go home and my eating disorder is magically going to go away. But I think being aware that, knowing for a fact that you will mess up at some point in your life is an inevitability. I just hope that if anybody watching this hears that they can take away from it that it's okay to ask for help. Please get help from somebody that you trust and that cares about you. I think of all the things I want to say in this interview, that's the most important thing, is you are worth it, you have value, and people love you. I'm at a place now where I'm not afraid of owning up to things that I've done and sharing my experience with others, because one, me being honest with myself and with others is the only way I'm ever going to move past it. I want to normalize making mistakes. The expectation of everybody to be 100% perfect all the time is just too much. The importance of giving yourself grace is, the past is etched in stone. You can't change it. You can learn from it, but if you dwell there and you live in the past, you can never be present in the moment, and you can never work towards the future. Learn from your mistake, but don't continue to beat yourself up about it. Say, okay, this is what I've learned. I'm going to do it differently this time. And if that time doesn't work, okay, so then I've tried this and this. Now we come up with a new plan. Being present in the moment is, I think, a skill and an ability that most people don't truly understand. Mindfulness is a gift if you can do it, because we have so many daily stressors in our lives that we let that ruin the beauty of life. For a long time, when I first started here, my morning routine was I would get up before everybody else, and I would make my cup of coffee, and I would just sit on the back porch and just listen to the birds before the sun came up. And that was the best part of my day. It's just really hard to appreciate life when you're constantly beating yourself up. So I would just caution people against I should have done this, I should have done that. Be prepared for life to do what life is going to do. We're not in control. I have learned so much about that from here. Truly, I have learned from all of those groups. I have learned from group settings. I've learned in my individual sessions with Celia. I've learned from my peers. Like I was talking about earlier, I grew up homeschool on a farm, very Southern Baptist. I had basically no exposure to the world and the different lifestyles and beliefs of the world. I've never really interacted with people who lived a different lifestyle as me. So getting to be here and learning about other people's lifestyles, for example, I'd never met a trans person until I was here. And that experience from meeting these people here has taught me, the respectful way that they want to be treated and the respectful way that they want to live their lives. It's really eye-opening to see all these different types of people with different backgrounds and different stories come together in one place and all be able to support each other and say, you are good enough, you do have value, we all love you, so let us show you how to love you. When I was a new person here, I was really shown a lot of love and care by the peer group that was here at the time. They really took me in very quickly and showed me what it's like to be accepted in a group and like to feel like I belong somewhere. I have really tried to adopt that approach when a new person comes in here, of being as welcoming as possible and showing them this is a safe place. This is a safe place where you can come and learn to love you as you are, the way that you are. This is a place where you don't have to wear a mask and you don't have to be somebody you don't like. It's so much more freeing to go through life and feel confident in your decisions, feel confident that you're prepared to handle things as they come up when you feel like you're being true to yourself. You never know where anybody else is in their story. You never know where they are on their journey in their recovery. Just show people a little kindness. That's what I would say to people. It's like everybody could be a little bit more kind and try to leave the world a better place than you found it. And so if I can do that by sharing my story, then I'm happy to do that. We hear people talk about radical acceptance, and I don't think that radical acceptance is hard. It sucks. I hate radical acceptance, but I understand the importance of it because there are so many things in this life that are out of our control. And being able to say, you know what, this is happening and that's okay. It's hard. I like control. I like to control how people are going to see me. I like to control the narrative of what part of my story they're aware of. And that's just not how it works. It sucks. Like, that is by far the hardest thing that I've had to learn is radical acceptance. I'm a huge fan of movie quotes. One of the biggest quotes that I think speaks to radical acceptance, I don't know if you've seen The Lord of the Rings. In the very first movie, Frodo, he's talking to Gandalf and he says, "I wish the ring had never come to me. I wish none of this had ever happened." And Gandalf's response to that is, "So do all who live to see such times, but that's not for them to decide. All that you have to decide is what to do with the time that's given to you." And I think that that is the most impactful quote that I've ever heard in my life, and I really hold it close to my heart because you're right, I can't control what is thrown at me, but I can control whether or not I cave. I can control whether or not I lash out at people around me. I can control whether or not I'm a kind person or a hateful person. Those things I am in control of. And so the things that I can change, I should. And in fact, on my 1-year token, that's part of the serenity prayer. It says, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And I think for anybody struggling, not just with eating disorders or self-esteem issues, but like any addiction, that's such a big thing because there's a reason that we went to that addiction. There's a reason we ran there because we're trying to avoid something. Acceptance is hard. It really is. But if you can learn to accept things, life gets easier. I mean, for me, obviously, like, the staff has been wonderful. I've formed such great relationships with the staff here. Not just the group leaders and the therapists, but like all the staff. To be honest, I'm going to be sad to say goodbye to all of them. because they have been such a huge impact on my life for the last 6 months of my life. Any of the staff that work here has been there for me, when I needed them to help me out of a dark time in one way or another. They have been there for me on the journey of, being able to get back in contact with my daughter again. And when I did finally get to speak to my daughter again, they all celebrated with me. They were all just as invested as I was. That's a really good feeling, to know that you have people in your corner that genuinely care about you. As far as the area that it's located in, I grew up in the middle of nowhere. This it feels like home to me. It's very quiet. We can sit out back and listen to the birds, and it's calming and peaceful out here. You don't have the distraction of the city. You don't have the distraction of life, right? You really can come out here and it's just you and yourself. You can do a lot of self-discovery in a quiet place like this. Being in a place where you can truly learn to be zen and at peace, that's something that I wish everybody could experience in their life at least once. As a man who definitely struggles with emotions, it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to talk to somebody that you trust, a good friend, and be like, hey, I'm feeling this type of way right now. I don't really know why. And just talking through it with them, get some outside perspective maybe. For anybody who might be watching, you have value, you have worth, and don't ever think that you don't, no matter what the world tells you. If you didn't have a purpose for being here, you wouldn't be here. Just don't give up.